Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Today we're going to take a look at the Sennheiser HD660s. Now the Hifiman Ananda, the MrSpeakers Ether C, and the Sennheiser HD600 are my three favorite headphones. Does the 660s make it four favorite headphones, or does it replace one of those? Alright, so the Sennheiser HD660s, it's a 150 ohms, 104 decibels of sensitivity, has a frequency response of 9 Hz to 41 kilohertz, and it is tuned to the diffuse field equalization. It does come with a few accessories in the box. You get this really long 10-foot, 3-meter cable, which is pretty standard fare for Sennheiser. The only differences are, if I can untangle them, one defaults to terminates, terminates, where is it, to a 1/4 inch, the other one to 4.4 millimeter. That's it. They're both 10 foot long, really long, and then they have the standard 2-pin connector for Sennheiser. I like the cables. They're well built, they're durable, they're not going to go anywhere. Yes, you can roll over them with your chair. All kinds of little simple things like that. I wish one was shorter than the other, but they're going to last and they work very well. No problems, no concerns. You also do get, an adapter 1/4 inch to 3.5. So you can plug it in to a portable device or a desktop that only has 3.5. Now, speaking of portables, works on portable devices. Is it my preferred sound? No. But it does work. Worked with my Sony NWA105 Walkman and also with my Pioneer XDP30R, and I was able to not even have to come remotely close to maxing out the volumes on either one of those. Does work off of dongles off of my phone, the Samsung Note 10 Plus, but you had to get close to maxing out the volume. As far as desktops, it worked very well on everything that I own: My Tech Liberty, Socrates DEC 1421, Jeshelli Labs, JNOG, Arish, Archel pairing, also SPL 500 SE, Tor Audio Roger. Also works very well with the Topping D90, the Burson Audio Playmate 2, and the IFI Audio Diablo. So I had no problems whatsoever pairing it, and it sounds great on everything. All right, so the Sennheiser HD660s. Easy to drive and easy to wear. It's very comfortable and very similar built to most other Sennheisers in the 600 series. Has a plastic build, does say Sennheiser. It's not centered like the 600, it is off to the side. And it has a little bit of branding. Has this little weird cutout thing with the logos. There you go, you can see the big driver in there. And now this is a different driver than the 600 series. This is a driver that is based off of a 700. And it's interesting because there are some similarities, but there are some differences. I really enjoy the 660s, spoiler alert. Bass-wise, on the Sennheiser 660s, the bass is about perfect for me. Yes, it is rolled off into the sub bass, but you don't lose the details. You just lose a little bit of the body and a little bit of the girth, which I'm fine with. And I really enjoy the tone and the timbre, the isolation and separation of instruments, and the clarity and the control that the 660s has in the bass. And yeah, it's a little bit light on impact, a little light on the bass slam and dynamics, but overall, everything else is there. And that's what I'm looking for, is the details, the clarity, and the tonality. And to me, the 660s just sounds great in that regard. Never loses control, does not distort, does not muddy up. Everything just sounds like it should. And it's just, I like the bass. Mids. I really like the mids on the 660s. They have an airiness to them, very good clarity, and extremely good details. Very nice isolation, separation of instruments and vocals. Everything is where it should be, and it's very natural sounding. They have this way of just presenting everything as to what it would sound like in the real world. I find that the 660s is the most realistic sounding headphone that I've heard. I really enjoy the 660s. They just have this pleasantness, this sweetness, this natural sound about them. Everything about them, whether it be a piano or a guitar, a trumpet, tuba, bass guitar, does not matter what the instrument, it sounds realistic. It sounds real on the 660s. And then in the treble is nicely extended. You get good energy, nice airiness to it, but it never goes into harsh mode or fatigue mode. It's very well controlled, and it does just like the mids. It's a very natural sounding treble. When there's harshness to be expected in the natural world, you get it on the 660s. And I just find it's just very smooth and very clean sounding treble that never is too boosted or too recessed. It just has the proper amount of treble. And to me, it's just like the perfect sounding treble on a headphone. So overall, I really like the tonality of the 660s. I find this very clean, very clear, very well balanced and cohesive, and everything stays in its place and is separated and isolated and just does a really good job of presenting in a natural way. Soundstage is very nicely extended, has a good width to it. It's not overly wide and it's not intimate. It's about perfect, and it's right where I believe a soundstage should be, because I find that sometimes soundstages can be a little too small and then things sound a little boxed in, a little cramped and unnatural. And then when they're super wide, they sound unnatural too, because they're too spaced out and it just doesn't sound real. To me, the 660s sounds real. It sounds natural and true to the surroundings and true to actual instruments and to overall just presentations that you would get. And I find that it does a really good job with depth, layering, height, everything there. If something is left, center, and back, you will know it. If it's left, center, and forward, you're going to know it. Things like that are just very well detailed on the soundstage. One thing that's really interesting with the 660s is if you have a vocalist or an instrumentalist that's using a microphone and they're standing to one side of the microphone and singing into it or playing into it, and you'll be able to tell because it'll be just a little bit more focused on one side than the other. And it just does a really little small things like that are just exceptional on the 660s, and I truly enjoy this. This is by far the best sounding Sennheiser I've heard, and it's my favorite Sennheiser that I've heard. I really enjoy the 660s. It's spectacular. How's it compared to the 600? Now, the 600 is not as extended in the bass and the treble. Also, the mids are more forward on the 600. It does have more body to it, a little bit more weight to it. The 600 has a little bit more girthiness, you could say, but the bass gets muddled and jumbled up on busier tracks, and it distorts easily when pushed. And the treble can get into fatigue mode and be a little bit too aggressive at times. And it's a little too far forward in the mids. And sometimes it'll sound a little bit too much pushed, even though it's a lovely sound. And I truly enjoy it, and I use it all the time for tone and timbre. It's not a truly natural sound because it is a little bit too much accentuation. The 660s actually has more balance to it. Hifiman Ananda. Now, the Hifiman Ananda has a wider stage, has a larger stage. Everything is bigger on the Ananda. You do get more body and more girth in it, but the upper mids and treble are more accentuated on the Ananda, and it does have a brighter signature. And I find that the 660s is actually more controlled and a little bit more natural sounding than the Ananda. If you think that the Ananda is a little too bright and a little too forward in those areas, the 660s is more controlled and a little bit more relaxed. And then the MrSpeakers Ether C. Now, the Ether C is my go-to closed-back headphone. And I find that the Ether C has the closest to natural sound that I've ever heard, especially in a closed-back headphone. And the 660s is like the Ether C in open back when it comes to tone, timbre, and resolution. I find that they both do an exceptional job on detail retrieval, and in the resolution of those details. And they do it in a very natural and tone and a very natural timbre. And I find that both of those excel tone, timbre, and resolution. And even though the Ether C has a little bit more sub bass presence, so you get a little bit more body to it, and it is a little bit more elevated in the upper mids and in the treble, neither one of them get into fatigue mode, and neither one of them get into harshness. They both do an extremely good job with the resolution of the details. So I really enjoy the Sennheiser HD660s. If you get a chance to hear one, highly recommend it. If you love the 600, but you want a bigger stage and a little bit more airy sound and a little bit more balanced sound, 660s. If you have the 650 and you want, again, a little bit bigger sound, stage, airiness, less stuffy, 660s. If you have an Ananda and you think it's just a little too much, or you want a little bit more relaxed sound, 660s. And if you have an Ether C and you want something that sounds similar to it in an open back, 660s. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Speaking of next time, somewhere on the screen is a subscription link and notification bell. If you haven't already, please check those off. And then don't forget to check out the links down below for information regarding where you can purchase the Sennheiser HD660s, and also for information regarding gear that was used during this review, and music playlists that were used, and all kinds of other good things listed down below in those links. So please check those off, check them out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. I'll catch you next time.